Foolishness, everyone. It's time to get freaky with the genius. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we begin with just a quick recap of the week. Now, depending on how closely you follow the orgy of filth and misery that is the gaming news cycle, you may be wondering whether or not I'm going to mention the controversy around the Cyberpunk 2077 microtransaction rumors. The answer is yeah, but only briefly. The reason being that I have zero interest in playing that game or any other really online, so I don't give a good fuck about anything to do with the multiplayer. I also have zero interest in spending time talking about shit I don't care about, so there's that too. So for those of you who don't know, there was some questionable interpretations of an interview that one of their devs did recently, and it caused a bunch of trigger-happy rejects to freak out about whether or not there would be microtransactions in Cyberpunk's multiplayer. So what's actually occurring? Well, you might not be surprised to learn that they actually didn't really say shit, and the only thing they did say was that they're still considering all options and they haven't decided on anything concrete or specific. Now, naturally, given the tragic state of the games industry, most people's first reaction was a cynical one, and let's be honest, you can't blame anyone for that. However, the admittedly unusual case here is that we happen to be dealing with CD Projekt Red, a company that, in my opinion, as well as many others, and against all odds, has amazingly earned themselves the benefit of the doubt. I know, in this day and age, it's quite shocking, but it is true. So that, coupled with my general indifference to anything multiplayer, means that I give this story a rating of nothing to see here, move along. For our main story tonight, I thought we'd take a moment to talk about this silly Game Awards Death Stranding controversy. Mostly because I'm just fucking sick of hearing about it, and there doesn't seem to be anyone anywhere talking the real shit about it. So you know what that means, someone has to, and that someone is gonna be us. So if you're not familiar, people got a bunch of sand in their vaginas because of all the awards Death Stranding is nominated for. 8, I think, including Game of the Year. Now there's some concern here because Jeff Keighley, the guy responsible for the Game Awards and the host, is featured in the game, and people think this makes for a conflict of interest. It's also particularly shady when you consider that Famitsu, a Japanese game review publication, also gave the game a perfect 40 out of 40, which for them is exceptionally rare. The game also just so happens to feature the editor-in-chief of Famitsu as it does Jeff Keighley. In addition, Jeff Keighley's relationship with Kojima is well known. So as you might imagine, we got the usual whinging on both sides, with some people saying conflict of interest and other people ravenously defending the game in all aspects of it because, you know, Kojima. And also, just as an aside for context, Famitsu is also the magazine that gave Final Fantasy XIII a perfect score too. Yeah, they sound totally unbiased and fair. So with all that being said, here's my take on the whole thing. Who fucking cares? Are the judges at the Game Awards compromised? Is Famitsu shilling for Kojima? The answer to both questions is yes, of course they fucking are. How naive do you have to be in this day and age, in a time where the term access media was coined, to believe that anyone in any organization that big is not? But also, more importantly, and this is the main thing I don't see anyone talking about, who gives a single fuck about the Game Awards? Are you fucking kidding me? In what universe do these things have even a shred of credibility? Can you think of a single person that you know that's sitting there and going, oh my god, I can't wait to see who wins Game of the Year at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards? Like, who's thinking, oh man, I wonder what's gonna happen at the Game Awards this year? What a fucking joke. Now listen up, because it's time for the tough talk. The Game Awards, like everything else these days, the game industry, indeed any industry at all the way up to the fucking government, are completely run by big business money. Yes, I know what you're all thinking, blah blah, unfettered capitalism, run amok, boo-hoo, oh god, boring. I'm not here to talk about politics. You don't care what mine are, I don't care what yours are, so let's just move past that. I didn't make the shit this way, and like any other sane middle-class person, I don't fucking like it either. But someone has to tell it like it is, and this is how it fucking is. Once any organization reaches a certain size or value, it's fundamentally contaminated and taken over by corporate money interests. Okay? And thanks to the internet, seems like most people are finally starting to learn that. That's why everyone gets their news and culture info from independent people on places like YouTube now. What motivation does someone like me have to not tell you the truth as I see it? I'm just some idiot with a day job and less than 100 subscribers. That's why all branches of Access Media are making fools of themselves now, desperately trying to smear and deplatform their competition and frantically publishing as much agitation propaganda as they possibly can. For example, any of you see that ridiculous 60 Minutes article entitled, "How does YouTube handle the site's misinformation, conspiracy theories, and hate?" Haven't we been through this? It doesn't need to be handled. We have the First fucking Amendment for a reason. You can't shield everyone from things that you're worried someone might not like. You know somewhere else you can find tons of info on conspiracy theories, the KKK, a copy of Mein Kampf, and a bunch of other stuff presented as fact that may not be true? A fucking library. And I don't recall ever hearing about people trying to shut those down. I wonder if it's because libraries historically haven't threatened mainstream media's stranglehold on information brokering and agenda-pushing psyops. That's weird, right? Wow, so that was quite a tangent, but I trust you see my point. Do any of you honestly think that at any point the Game Awards or any other award bullshit, Oscars, Emmys, whatever, were not completely scripted, bought, and paid for to be used as vehicles to promote products? Of course not. In this case, the Game Awards aren't even trying to hide it either. Go to their website and take a look at the advisory board really quick. I don't suppose it would be populated completely with people representing major companies with a huge stake in the gaming market, right? Oh, but of course it fucking is. You got Activision, AMD, EA, Google, Microsoft, Rockstar, Tencent, Kojima, Nintendo, fucking everybody. And they're asking us to believe that these companies don't have any effect on which games win what? Then, if that's the case, what are they doing sitting on the advisory board then? What are they advising? Now, what guarantee do we have that these companies aren't involved in any way in which games win what? Oh, well, we have to take their word for it, of course. They say that they don't, so we should believe them, right? I mean, after all, it's not like any of these companies have been caught straight up lying to their customers before, have they? Oh, right, yeah. This is just rich industry people with their rich industry friends sitting around sucking each other off and congratulating themselves on how much money they made off us so far. Ain't nobody checking for this. This shit has nothing to do with us. So, I mean, you gotta face it. Money controls everything, including and especially the Game Awards. And I don't give a good goddamn fuck what they say about anything. And neither should you. Anyway, lastly tonight, since mercifully it's been a relatively tame week for industry news, we do have a few minutes to do a mini review for Jedi Fallen Order. Now, I'm a Star Wars fan, or at least I used to be, so when this came out and I saw people were liking it, I jumped right on it. For better or for worse though, what we've got here is a great Star Wars adventure, but a pretty shitty video game. The overall design is actually pretty decent, but regrettably, this is a case where the bugs are so bad and so overwhelmingly prevalent that they seriously interfered with my ability to enjoy the game. I'm not talking a few minor grievances here, but shit that happened to me almost constantly while I was desperately trying to play through this. Climbing glitches causing me to fall through the map, animation problems getting me stuck in set pieces, action triggers straight up failing to activate, resulting in me being forced to quit the game and start over from the last checkpoint, and probably worst of all, the combat problems. Oh my god, the combat really tried so hard, but it just did not work at all. For some bizarre reason, it seems like they chose to prioritize the animations over the actual combat mechanics, which makes fighting enemies an overall sloppy, imprecise, and frustrating exercise in patience and tedium. I lost count of the amount of times I executed what appeared to be a perfectly timed dodge or parry, only to have the action ignored by the game in favor of allowing an animation to complete. This resulted in my frequently taking chain damage, which I had no way to avoid, or less commonly but still way too often, glitching through the map or enemy and falling to my death. It should be said that historically I am not super great at Souls-style action games like this, so at first I thought I was just really fucking bad. However, after watching a few reviews and impressions from content creators I trust, it became immediately obvious that the problem in this case was not me, but rather the combat design and implementation. I eventually became so fed up I found myself simply running past groups of enemies because the game made it such a hassle to engage with them. Now, I must stress that I have a high threshold for bug tolerance. It takes some pretty serious shit to affect my enjoyment of a game, especially if otherwise it's super sick. Overall, I feel like I get pretty lucky with bugs. I rarely encounter them in most games. Even shit I read about plaguing people with certain games usually misses me. But this shit is seriously fucking bad. Most play sessions I had with this game ended not because I was bored or didn't care about the story or anything, but because I was too frustrated by the game fucking itself up. However, all that being said, there is some prime grade A Star Wars goodness to be had here. The type of which I was sure was gone forever until these recent days have seen kind of a ray of hope being shed on the franchise a little bit. So let that be known. Just like Rogue One and The Mandalorian, this is some of the best Star Wars we've had since Disney decided to take it out behind the tool shed. And that is some very serious business indeed, and not something to be easily discounted or dismissed. Alas, as much as I love Star Wars when it's done right, man, this is a case where the technical problems are simply too severe to be surmounted by a great story, even a great Star Wars story. Now, just so you don't get it twisted, if you love Star Wars, will you love this? Almost definitely. After all, I still played through it all the way to the end, and I would rate my time playing it as overall pretty enjoyable. But it is going to make you pay for every moment of that enjoyment with an equal measure of aggravation and frustration. And for that, sorry, but you ain't getting better than a 6 out of 10, boy. Now, where the fuck is Titanfall 3? And with that, we have once again arrived at the close of yet another stunning episode of Degreelessness. Thank you so much for chilling with us tonight. We will see you next week. Remember, we love you today, we love you all the way. And as always, don't like, don't comment, ignore the bell, and never subscribe. Because at some point, you gotta wake up and smell the ashes.